but that's the way it goes.
Back in the mid-'60s, when you were considering building this facility and you guys wanted the one-floor building, did you want that one-floor building built on this site here, or?
No, we had so much room. We were going to move it around that it was easy accessible to the tee, to the driving range, to the pool. The whole thing was a better thing than we have today, I think. But that's my opinion. We didn't do it, so here we are. And then once it's done, it's done. And I suppose our folly that was being done now will sort of go away.
Let me ask you a question on groundskeepers and pros. Go back to the first groundskeeper that you remember and take us forward. And go back to the pros, the pro that was here at that time, and bring us up in the comments you have on how we moved in that direction on both areas. Do you remember who was the first groundskeeper or the first pro when you joined?
Well, the pro that I started with, and I can't recall his name, unfortunately. I will. And if I do, I'll give you a call at 2 o'clock in the morning, tell you about it. But anyway, he had his pro shop at the number 10th hole, our number 10th hole today. Excuse me.
Was that Carl Benbutel?
Carl Benbutel, thank you. And we had our pro shop, which was no bigger than maybe 10 by 12. And we had our bag room. And Carl not only was the pro, he was also the green person. In 1962 or maybe 61, Jerry Boykin came on the scene. And I don't know if anybody recalls Charlie Smith, but Charlie Smith was a teaching pro at the Silver Tee, and he was also a teaching pro at several other ranges. And he applied for the job. And I took some lessons from Charlie, and I liked him very much, and there were several other people liked him. Anyway, Jerry Sindelar met Jerry Boykin down in Florida, and he brought him up, and he won the job, and Charlie Smith lost the job. Charlie then went and built a golf course in Elyria, near Elyria Country Club. He built it started with 9 holes. They finally enlarged it to 18 holes. And I didn't pay much attention to Charlie. He was gone. I felt bad that he didn't get the job. And one day I saw him at the Packal restaurant. And he hugged me. He says, "Thank you, thank you, thank you." I says, "What are you thanking me for?" He says, "You made me a millionaire." I says, "What do you mean?" I says, "I sold my course to the city of Elyria for $1 million, and I'm a millionaire, and I'm glad I didn't get the job at Lakewood Country Club." I mean,
that's interesting. I've never heard that story.
Well, that's a true story. That's what happened here. Of course, Charlie Lott he was a great guy. I loved him. but he loved water. And Jerry Sindelar and Charlie Lott loved trees. And I will recall very vividly that every year on the Greens Committee, there was a budget for trees. $14,000, and whether we needed trees or not, there was a tree put in by Charlie Lott. And you could see some of the work that Charlie Lott has done around here. And I remember one day they were going to open up the across the street from the club housing development. And there were a whole bunch of pines, straggly pines there. There must have been 100 of them. The next day, they were all over our golf course because they were given to us free. But Charlie had a lot of funny ways of doing things, and he loved trees, and he loved, now that we cut him down, and he comes around and he yells at Jim Noel for cutting down trees. Jerry Sindelar was our green chairman, and he would come up from Florida, and one year he saw sweep traps. I don't know if you know about sweep bunkers, that you could see them. We had all Tillinghast deep bunkers. A half year later, we had sweep traps all over the golf course. The following year, he came back and he says, I think we need some water on the back side for our par threes. And the new 12 was now built, and the old 12 was superseded by the new 12, and there was water in front, and that was built. And anything he saw in Florida, he wanted to bring up here. Now, the following year, Fred Porter became the Greens chairman. And Fred was a very fine golfer, and he had a nice fade. And on the third hole, there was a big tree on the left-hand side of the green, about maybe 10 yards. And Fred would always hit that tree. And in the match one time, hitting that tree, he got upset, and the next day, the tree was gone. I was chairman when they built a new number 8th green. Now, Len Tunsing was our liaison, and he was also on the board. And we got $4,000 to build that hole.
What was the purpose of that, John? I mean, just to make it a more difficult hole?
No, the purpose was the old number 8 was the opposite of number 4. It had a sharp dog leg to the right. Now, what was happening was we were cutting over the trees, and it was dangerous to the people on the tee, on number 2 tee, because the ball would hit the tree and might hit somebody there, and the decision was that we would. But originally, the way the hole was designed was it was going to go down and then make a little dog leg to the right. And when we were talking about cutting the trees down back there, we told the guy that's what we wanted to do. We were talking from looking from the tee down. The tree cutter was looking from the green to the tee, so right was this way. So that's why we have a straight hole.
Was that first green where that sod green is now, or that practice green out there to the right? Is that about where that
That's where the green was.
was? Okay.
And it was a very difficult green. He had two bunkers on each side, and it was a long type of green. And it was a difficult, and I pride myself in doing one thing at this club, is that I had an eagle on every hole. I've had 19 eagles, but I never eagled number 5. I never had a hole-in-one on number 5. The closest I was to number 5 was this close, and it was a match against Elmer Bonico for the club championship. We were playing in the club championship. And Elmer was about maybe 2 feet away. And he says, good, good. I says, no, it only takes a second, Elmer. And he missed the putt. And on the 12th hole, it was all over because it shattered him, because he was so mad at me that I wouldn't give it to him. But that's the way these matches go. I'm trying to recall what I put in some of the notes that I had on these people.
Tell us about the number 9 hole, where it was, this used to be a par 70, and that
Well, number nine hole was played from it was a par 71. It was a par 71, and we played the 9th hole from the ladies' tee. And that was an easy hole from back there because we used to drive it very, very, we had like 7 irons into the green from there. Speaking of various holes, we had a board member by name of Parker. Speaking of the 9th hole, his wife, at one time we had the mounds in the 9th hole were deep mounds. And his wife would get into those mounds, and she never could get out of them, or she would have bad shots. Well, the following week after she disclosed this to her husband, all the mounds were shaved down on the 9th hole. Every Greens chairman tried to put his mark on the golf course. He would change something. Put it in, take it out. Put it in, take it out. Finally, I think, was it in your regime that you finally got a architect that we couldn't do anything?
That was Stephen Kay when we put it in the bylaws.
Yes, right.
That wasn't with me, that was later on. But what do you think about the new design that Stephen Kay has put in here just 4 years ago or so?
Well, I have some.
Tell me the good and the bad.
Well, the bad, I think one of the bad, although every Tillinghast course has what we have on number 6. Yeah. One of those waste bunker.
The great hazard.
The great hazard is, I think, the water here, right. They call. But anyway, I think he said he was doing it for the good golfers. I think he hurt the average golfer. If he wanted to do it for the good golfer, he would put it closer to the green, in my estimation, because then those guys back there who were going for the green would probably end up in the bunker. This way, they just go over it. It doesn't matter to them. But for the average golfer, they have to hit up, and then they got 160 or 170 yards. And I think, to me, that was not a good idea, really. I think they weakened number 15th hole considerably. It's still not a good hole. The guys hit out there, and there's nothing. It's a short hole, and there's not enough protection around the green. I think they should have bunkers, more bunkers around the green, or more bunkers closer to the fairway, or narrow the fairway down there.
What holes do you think are the best holes that we have as of right today?
I think number 10 to me is a very good hole. I think number 4 used to be a good hole. To me, it's not such a good hole anymore. Number 5 is a super hole. Number 14, of course, is a good hole. Even with the tree down, it's a good hole. Number 18 is a good hole. There are some holes like number 4. For the good golfer, it's not a hard hole anymore. Before, he had to stay way to the right because of the trees, and if he pulled the ball, he was in the trees. There are things that I haven't played the way back tees, but I presume what I've heard by other people who've played those tees, it's a good test of golf from back there, especially number 7. They weakened 7 considerably by taking all those trees out on the right-hand side. But that's the philosophy of some of the golfers that we have, and I think the pro and the designer and the golf architect that says, well, you got to give them a shot, you got to do this, you got to do that. And I say, well, if you want to play the course, you got to stay to the left, and you can't hit it to the right, and you don't have a shot. You got to play it to the left. So they cut the trees down so the guy can hit the ball. And they did one thing this year. They took the tree right near number 8, number 7 green. They cut that down, if you noticed, to make it a little easier even then, because that was
hanging over it a little.
right.
Let me